transfer portal activity. Discussion of that shortly. Obviously, basketball team got another win. How about that? Tried to choke that away a little bit there against Virginia Tech, but I'll take those wins. Moving towards the ding-ding, perhaps. And then, of course, the NFL playoffs being set, and we'll talk about that as well. Tom, you all right? How you doing, buddy? We got bad weather coming here. I don't know about you, but we're all buckling up for tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw that Leon County, for those of you that are in Leon County, that would be everybody on the air, canceled school tomorrow out of safety precautions. We get it tomorrow night with sustained winds above 40 and then gusts above 65 tomorrow night. So that should be interesting. But that's, tomorrow. I know you're getting hit today a little bit, but tomorrow morning into the afternoon is about to get real dicey down in Tally.
Yeah, I got the boys, Corey Clark, Irish Chappelle on the horn. We got to figure out our schedule for tomorrow. School's canceled, all that good stuff. So it's going to be weird. It is going to be very, very strange, I think. All right, where do we start? How about we start with Florida State in the portal? If I go big picture here, I will tell you they're not killing it in the portal. They're doing okay. They're not dominating the portal. There's still some needs that aren't being met. In particular, linebacker. You don't want to hear me go on and on and on about that. I've already talked about it before. I'm disappointed there. I was disappointed with the extensions to the coaching staff en masse. But we will see. There'll be a lesson to be learned here in due time, perhaps. It's also not over. Now, as much as I was disappointed in that they missed out on the Skirtin kid, that was a bad miss, if you will, the kid from Purdue. I will say, while that's frustrating, I was elated when they got Earl Little Jr. Now, not same positions, I understand that, but we're just talking about defensive personnel and positions of need and that kind of thing. And when you think about that player, when I watch him, when I think of what he will be for this defense, I think it's a huge get because I think he's going to play the role that Jamie Robinson played a couple of years ago. I think he's that kind of guy. And we've talked about this, you and I have, but I'm looking big picture here of where they succeeded and where they have failed. They've also gone out and got a lot of speed. Now, that's fine. That's great, and that will benefit you. Jaylen Brown is a burner at wide receiver, and you got that kind of speed coming in. And Jalen Lucas, the running back that they just got from Indiana, kick returner, speed for days. Got it. That's nice. I'm still very concerned about the lines of scrimmage and still very concerned about linebackers. So I hear you loud and clear. It could be we haven't figured anything out there at linebacker just yet. I'll be watching. Now, look, Grady Kelly on the defensive line, that is going to be a Malcolm Ray replacement. It should be duly noted that a lot of the guys that Florida State have lost so far in the portal are guys I think we saw where they landed, everybody. I mean, there's a Rutgers there. There's a Southern Miss there. It's not exactly like when you bring in an Alabama guy or a Georgia guy or an LSU guy and you lose a guy that ends up going to Rutgers or Southern Miss, no knock on those kids, whatever it might be, then you kind of realize, all right, uptick in talent infusion, that kind of thing. That's what we're going for here, but they've got to do a better job and they've got to get some offensive linemen in here. Ferguson is a big one to watch carefully. Let's see, can they land him? The Leonard kid, I guess, from UF is another option there. Looks like, Tom, they want to go massive guards here. They want to be really big to go with a big quarterback that could run the ball, and that's probably a different looking offense next year, which will be interesting.
Yeah, a lot of speed on the edges. I mean, especially if they get the Malik Benson receiver from Alabama as well. You know, we were talking about how fast Jaylen Brown is in the 100-meter and the 200-meter. Malik Benson in high school, I believe it was, broke a state record of a future Olympian in the 200. So there's another burner. You're going speed on the edges, speed on the perimeter, and then you're going massive in the middle. Now, they are retaining a lot of guys in the offensive line. We talked about most of them last year, like the guys that are the holdover since a couple of coaching staffs ago. But Keandre Jones is back for another year. The Battle's End announced Jeremiah Byers is back for another year. So you've got pieces that you can work with for next season. But I think we'd all agree that this offensive line in 23 took a step back from 22. So you want to press forward. You want to get better. Hopefully some of those younger kids can take some reps away. We did that on Red Zone on Friday. But you still want to bring in one or two more in the portal, and it looks like they're going for beef.
They want to be big. They want to be big and bludgeon. I like that style of football, by the way, but they also want to be able to stretch the field. You have talent enough to do that right now. We'll watch all of this very carefully. We know that is a work in progress. You think about it last year even, Tom, The real splash in the portal, the biggest splash in the portal that they made was Keon Coleman, and they didn't get him here. They got him in the spring. So there's still, that's the other thing that you got to look for.
I'm not panicking just yet. They're getting some pieces to build towards the strength of their quarterback for next year, which I think is smart because he's got a cannon, and it will be hard for him to overthrow dudes. You know, if you could bring in sub 22, 200-meter runners, track runners like that. So I see what they're doing. They're building some players and some ideas around what DJ's strengths are. They want to be a little bit more in terms of surging and moving the line of scrimmage. They know that they couldn't run their bread and butter plays last year on offense. They knew they couldn't, and they had to work around it. And I think they got tired of that. So we'll see what they do. But, yeah, it's a fluid situation where I'm not going to grade them on their portal, their gets or their misses just yet. Some guys objectively are like the kid from Purdue. You're mad that they didn't land them. But this is a process that's going to play out until May. I just wish there were, and there's another weekend to come of visitors. But I really want that spring to have as many new bodies as possible because the reps are up for grabs right here, right now. This isn't last year's team where you kind of know what the starters are going to be. This year's group, there's a lot of jobs on the line right here, right now in the spring.
If you can say his name, I will venture to try it with you. Durajai? Do I have that right? The young man from West Virginia?
We'll go with West Virginia. You nailed it.
They may get him. Hearing a good buzz around him, that'd be a good get. It would be a really good get to go along with the kid from Oregon State. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you'd have two defensive ends that you needed to get, and you would feel very good about that. I know he declined an interview and all of that, but there's a good vibe around him right now that I'm hearing. So throw that in there. Now, again, my frustration, where it lies, centers around linebacker. They may get the Syracuse kid, Stephon Thompson. I'm not in love with that film. It's not terrible, but they need bodies at this point, Tom. Some of that is not just like, is he a great player or a plus player? Look at the depth chart at linebacker. It's not good. You straight up have to bring in some guys. They got to get to this now at some point. This is beyond my personal frustrations. They got to get to this.
Well, and it should be noted as we're on the air in this segment.
And Malik Benson just committed, right?
That is correct. Malik Benson has committed to Florida State on threes. Hayes Fawcett does those edits for the kids. He put out one of those edits. So he is now in the fold. It's very interesting to me. I know this kind of hijacks the trenches talk, which is the most important thing. But it's very interesting to me to see what Florida State is doing in the wide receiver room this particular cycle. This is they're telling you what they believe they have and they do not have in their room. I saw it last night, Michael Langston's update through the first visit weekend, and he said that he wouldn't be surprised if they added another receiver in the spring window, a la the style of Keon Coleman, or another guy just on top of Benson. You're talking about an overhaul for a receiver room that does have a lot of young talent in it. I find that fascinating.
Well, so I brought up Jalen Brown a moment ago, the kid from LSU who's really, really fast, obviously, and you bring him in, and now you bring in the Alabama wide receiver and Malik Benson. Listen, I'm never going to complain when we're adding players from LSU and Alabama. It's never going to bother me if we're sitting around. I'm like, okay, we got a kid from Georgia, got a kid, and that's Marvin Jones Jr. We got from Georgia. You got Earl Little Jr. from Alabama. You got Jalen Brown from LSU. Now you add Malik Benson from Alabama. Yeah, okay, good on you. I will nod my head to that. Can you give me some offensive linemen from Alabama, Georgia, LSU, somewhere in that neighborhood? Can we get something along those lines? I'll take it. It is a big to-do to get Malik Benson and his commitment to FSU. You've lacked a buzz in this portal season. You've really lacked a buzz. They've been out-recruited, and listen, nobody's out-recruiting Ole Miss in the portal right now, right? Ole Miss is throwing money at the problem. They're getting guys. They're an attractive place to play right now, and obviously they're doing a good job of getting talent acquisition. What I can live with is occasionally you're going to have years where that happens, where a team has more room and more ability and more desperation, and that's fine. The better your roster gets, the less you're dependent on all of this. I understand all that. What you can't have happen is to be out-recruited in the trenches by Florida and Miami in your own state. That can't happen. So as we continue to monitor this, I'm noting the good and the bad. I'm talking about what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. It's not all roses. It's also not a disaster. That's where we're at.
So Matt Lasser texted me as we were talking about the West Virginia kid. He declined the interview, but he said it was great, like as he was on his way out. And our Matt Lasser has put in a prediction for that particular player to make it to Florida State. So
I agree with that. Early this morning, I was talking with some folks, and that sense that's shared by a lot of people. They feel good about what the vibe was with him. Yes.
So just a couple of notes on Malik Benson. If you look at his On3 profile, he's listed at 5'11" and a half. Alabama's website, because he hasn't been pulled off their roster just yet, lists him at 6'1". Apparently, his wingspan is over 6'5". This was the number one JUCO player in all of the rankings across all positions last year. So 2023's number one JUCO player.
Yeah, he was the number one JUCO player. Yeah.
Was this kid. That's who you're getting. So this isn't like a cast off that doesn't have chops. This is somebody with supreme athleticism. He was an award winner in the 100 meter, 200 meter, and the long jump, athlete supreme, and he put up big numbers in JUCO as well.
So next, we'll wait and see. Do they find good news from a linebacker? That's what we're going to wait and see on, Tom. I'm waiting on that. And also I'm watching very closely either Leonard or Ferguson on the offensive line. That's kind of where we sit right now with the portal development. I will be fascinated to see how this plays out. It's not going to be, I don't think at any point are we going to say they killed it as they have in years before. It's also not a total disaster. There were stretches over the last 72 hours where it began to feel like it could be a disaster. It could be a real problem. But again, when you were able to get Little and you were able to get Brown, when you're now able to get Benson, again, Grady Kelly, to me, the defensive lineman, is just a replacement from what I can tell on the film I watched of Malcolm Ray. He's not a game changer, but he's a nice fill for a player you lost. It's interesting. Malcolm Ray, I'm careful about what I say with kids that leave in good standing, certainly, right? I mean, there's not a argument between staff and player here. I find it surprising. You go and you test the waters and you end up at Rutgers. Okay. Okay. I don't begrudge him. Good luck at Rutgers. It's just interesting to me that that's how that played out. And you hear there is a chance that a couple more names will come up on the radar here in the next 24 hours. I'm not talking about on our roster, but on somebody else's. So we'll see.
I think one thing to point out here in terms of perception of how you're doing in the portal, like, of course you can land, top rated players at different positions and be lauded for landing those players and be termed as the winner, the king of the portal in a given year. Last year's mandate was so different than this year's mandate.
Correct.
It was add the luxury items to put you over the top for a playoff bid.
It was to make a run at what they accomplished, which was an undefeated season, winning the conference championship, going on the road, beating Clemson. No, you can't predict you're going to get screwed by the committee. They did everything that they were trying to do when they added those pieces because they knew they had the team, most importantly, the veteran leadership at quarterback, to make that run.
Yeah, and so between the coaching staff and the collective, they hit a grand slam, dead center field 500 feet, and Joe West called it foul. That's basically what happened last year. This year's mandate is so different because you're trying to build, yes, for the now and retool on the fly for a run at an ACC championship and a playoff berth in the field at 12, not an elite run at the 4. They're not going for broke like that. But you're trying to retool for 25 and 26. So I think some of these moves are not just about one and done type players, luxury items. These are about, all right, this guy projects well. I think in a year with our training and our development will get him to be here, all conference level, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like the way we should judge, it's not being defeatist at all, because you're allowed to land really good players, and they are landing some really good players. But I think that they are approaching the portal a little bit differently rather than going to grab a bunch of one-and-done type players like a Fisk and a Coleman, et cetera.
I want to follow up that discussion since we just hit on what happened at the end of the football season. Tonight concludes the Invitational with Washington and Michigan. Somebody will take home the Invitational title. But Greg Sankey had some comments about the disappointment and the acrimony that ensued following the snub. And I find that rich. I'll comment on that in just a second. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Friends, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Fasig.
And I'm Dana Brooks of Fasig Brooks Law Offices.
When you're in an accident, traffic cameras can be the best source of evidence to prove who's at fault.
That's why Fasig Brooks has partnered with RoadProof to have access to all their traffic camera footage.
With RoadProof, we can search our network of traffic cameras to find the evidence that could help you win your case.
Call us today to see if we can help find the proof to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Orthopedic pain and injury deserves effective treatment options now, so you feel better fast. Whether you have joint pain that won't subside or an urgent orthopedic injury, we are the specialists to get you back on your feet. And there's only one thing better than fast care: expert care. We believe you deserve both. TOC, only experts. Learn more at teamtoc.com.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Yeah, hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping you can get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to tread water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us. We're fine.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service, right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mndlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
This is Jamie McClenny with Trek Financial in Tallahassee. Despite the highest global interest rates in almost 2 decades, inverted yield curves, conflicts in the Middle East, and 3 of the largest bank failures in U.S. history, equities and bond markets have posted stellar returns for 2023. The Dow Jones, the NASDAQ 100, and the Russell 2000 all reached new highs as markets rallied on the expectations of Fed pauses and bank bailouts. Markets are going to do what markets are going to do, but a clearly defined risk management protocol can help to mitigate large drawdowns in your retirement nest egg. If you're concerned where all this might be headed, call me at 850-900-5200 and let's talk about ways to mitigate the risk in your portfolio.
Make Jamie your first call for that second opinion. Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com multimedia network.
Role of weatherman here, but I will do my civic duty and at least tell people when there's stuff happening that concerns them in the capital city. Really, it's not just the capital city. It's all the way up to New York where Tom is. But, yeah, ugliness is on the way, and schools are canceled tomorrow. Great. Love it when school's canceled. It's awesome. Yeah, my kids will do because you and I will work, Tom, I think, and so will most people in some capacity. And so the kids will just get told, I don't know, play Grand Theft Auto for 17 hours straight.
I think my role probably in my plan would be to be on the news desk in the morning while y'all are getting inundated. And then when we are getting destroyed overnight tomorrow, let's just hope that we have power when we wake up. It's because it's kind of cold up here. No, don't need the power to be out.
It's funny. I am ridiculously selfish in this way as well. And I'm not saying you're being selfish. You're right. It's cold up there, so you need to have the heat. But all I ever care about, no matter the weather, hot, cold, medium, whatever, all I ever care is about having power because I'm spoiled. And not having power is ridiculous. We're back in the dark ages the second it happens. What are we doing here? It's not going to get it done out here with no power.
No,
I will leave the city with the quickness anytime if you tell me the power is out for more than 24 hours, we are gone. I'm driving to wherever they have power.
Where would you go if you were me? I'm 2 hours from Philly or 3.5, 4 from DC. If I lost power, which city would you prefer?
Well, I like both cities for different reasons, but I don't know what, in terms of historical, either monuments or museums or places, what you've been to and what you haven't been, and it would be based on what you haven't been able to explore.
There you go. I've seen less of Philadelphia, so I would go to Philadelphia. I've been there, but I haven't seen a whole lot of it. And you know what? I could take part in them doom scrolling and doomsdaying on sports radio. They're Eagles, which are just falling to pieces left and right.
Matthew can tell you, Friday, what did I say to you? Are we going to be shocked if we look up and see that the Giants are up 21-0 on the Eagles? They've quit. That season's over. They're done. Their defense is the worst in the National Football League. They don't care to be there. They don't try. It looks to me like they don't like Jalen Hurts. Like, there's all kinds of issues. Like, they are a mess. Sirianni, all of them, they quit. The whole thing is a debacle. Now, they ought to be able to sleepwalk and beat the Bucs, but I don't know that they will. I don't think they care to be playing football is the point I'm making. Like, they want to go play golf. They look like a team that wants to go play golf.
So do the Bucs in large part. So that's going to be a really good product that ESPN puts on Monday Night Football a week from now. Is those two teams? I mean, so the Bucs have 9. The Bucs have 9 points in non-garbage time the last 2 weeks. Is that right? I mean,
yeah, it's not pretty. Yeah, no, it's well, Baker's hurt and you can see it. He can barely move. But they also can't run the ball and
which low key, that's a very old school bounty gate Saints move. That hit was, I know that we protect the quarterbacks like crazy, but that hit 2 weeks ago was ridiculously late. And
the one 2 weeks ago, yeah,
the one that actually busted his ribs up, yeah.
Now his ankle's all messed up too, so that's the problem. I mean, his ankle, he can't get out of the way, and they can't run, so teams just tee off. We will see. We'll get to the NFL in a second. It's very interesting. Luckily for us, Tom, we're division winners for the third straight year. Meanwhile, the Jags and the Dolphins, watching that play out the way that it did, the Butts are back over in Jacksonville, baby. Holy moly. That ended as poorly as it can possibly end for Jacksonville. And now real questions. Okay, so this was, there's a part of me that almost feels like Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, is saying all of these things tongue firmly planted in cheek, because you could not in any way disperse with this take and take it seriously. There's no chance. Not Greg Sankey, who spent the better part of 2 hours lobbying for the SEC and telling the world that their league is first and foremost different from all the other leagues and has to be graded and judged differently, and then act as if you wouldn't have been enraged about being left out of the college football playoff. He says, and I quote, that I'm disappointed in the acrimony that ensued following the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's controversial final ranking last month. Well, ain't that rich, Greg? You're disappointed, are you? Imagine how we feel. The College Football playoff selection committee, of course, doing what they did, only to hear Greg then say, I didn't need so many incoming emails. I can only imagine hearing from those on the selection committee who are volunteers. They're volunteers, guys. I think some of the statements made in the immediacy of selection were disappointing to me as a colleague. Now, he is calling out Michael Alford directly. That is who that is directed at. That is 100% towards Michael Alford. He goes on to say, I would maintain that the strength of our league, sure, we lost some games, but as I look at what were the four best teams, I would maintain that we had two of those fours. But again, the selection committee makes that decision, and we respect that decision. No, you don't. Why were you on TV lobbying for Alabama, Georgia, and everybody else? Because you don't respect their decision and their ability to make it of sound mind. You represent the SEC, and you are going to go to war for the SEC, just as you would if you were an athletic director whose team is on the wrong side of an unprecedented move, which was to be left out after winning a Power 5 conference championship in undefeated fashion while beating two of your SEC teams along the way. Get the hell out of here with this. Oh, I'm so disappointed. Clutch my pearls. I can't believe the kind of language that came out of FSU. He didn't say FSU, but that's exactly who he's talking about. But again, the selection committee makes the decision, and we respect their decision when it's two of your teams. Of course you do. And that it 2, 3, 4, 1. He would want 4 of 4 is what he wants, is what I'm saying. It's crazy to be this kind. I mean, it's funny. It's funny in a way.
It is. However, it's also a little uncomfortable. Remember how uncomfortable we felt when Gary Danielson was calling Tim Tebow games or Cam Newton games? And anytime they made a play, it doesn't even have to be a big one. It could have been a gain of 4 on 2nd and 6, but they ran over a guy, kind of, sort of. And Gary would analyze it. And you listen to
he was very aroused.
You'd listen to the tone of his voice, and it sounds like a commercial on the CW at 1 a.m. Like Jimmy Johnson's doing the commercial or something like that for whatever pills. That's what it sounded like. It was very uncomfortable. Well, we're living that with ESPN's treatment of the SEC. And there's another piece of proof this weekend where multiple staffers, namely somebody who does their national college football reporting, our old pal Heather Dinich, tweeted out that Greg Sankey, despite not having a team represented in the college football playoff final, is going to be traveling to Houston to support the sport for the good of the sport.
Yeah.
Now, whoever wakes up in the morning on their own and says, I wonder if Greg Sankey is going to the championship game, because, I feel like that's news. I feel like that's news that Greg Sankey is attending a game between two future Big Ten schools, Washington and Michigan. I wonder if he's going. Then you go mine for that information independently on your own without a monetary reason to do it.
Big time reporting. Big time reporting right there. Getting to the bottom of it, Tommy.
So it is reported, though, and that tells you just how behind the scenes.
$1 zillion contract with SEC. Of course, that's what that's going to be.
That means there's an email or a Slack or a group text that says, hey, folks, we really need to remind people that Greg is important and that the SEC has a presence at this game.
And Greg wanted to remind you of that, too.
Never mind. What kind of group text you and I would share if we were on a Slack that said that we needed to do that as a company? Sir.
Well, yes, I do know what kind of text that would read like. I know what I would say. The morning of selection, writes Greg, says Greg, we prepared a statement that said we have a different view, but we're not going to point fingers and cast blame. I bet it didn't read that way. I'm going to bet that nowhere in that statement did it say we have a different view, but we're not going to point fingers and cast blame. Well, how else would you object to your team being left out? You are casting blame at those who were posited with were tasked with the responsibility of naming the 4 teams. You just blame the situation. I'm just pissed at the air. You have to blame the committee that selected the teams, Greg. We're going to focus on how do we improve and prepare for the 12-team playoff that comes next year. I'm sure that's how that statement read. Please, can you send us the original? Send that email out for all of us to read the way that you would have gracefully handled having the SEC left out of the college football playoff. I'm sure it would have read exactly as you just paraphrased. We want to focus on how do we prepare for the 12-team playoff next year. Sir, I think 3 or 4 times we've had the 5th-ranked team since this process has started. Do I think every decision was perfect? No, but that is the authority that we all allocated. So go ahead and finish it. Let's come to the logical conclusion here, Greg. What you're saying is that that's the authority that everybody allocated. So sit down and shut up and take it. Yes. It goes on to read, as Tom correctly pointed out, because this is important, that Sankey will attend Monday night's Invitational Championship. Even though this is the first time since 2014 that the conference has not had a representative in said Invitational Championship game.
So you think they mentioned that on their own, that this is the first time in 10 years?
Well, they want you to see what kind of character Greg Sankey has and what kind of sportsman he is. And the character is on display when he jumps in his private jet and flies to Houston to watch the Invitational Championship. You see, I bet FSU's representation is not flying, or Jim Phillips is not flying to Houston to watch the game.
We can agree on that. I'm sure there's a swimming and diving regional at some point right now. That
Some sort of field hockey that Jim is anxiously awaiting.
The thing is, with these people, I had no problem with anything Greg Sankey did until this. You're supposed to lobby for your conference. And if
I've said this a million times. I tell FSU fans all the time when they get mad and they'll email me and they'll say this and that. I'm like, Sankey's doing his job better than our commissioner does his. Sankey does it better than anybody in the world because all he does is stump for the SEC around every turn. And if you give that dude a crack to come on for 2 seconds, he'll take 25 minutes to tell you why the SEC is better than everybody else's conference because that's his effing job.
Right. Don't blame him that ESPN gives him the desk and says, here's a full, C block for you.
Away, buddy.
Right. We'll take a break. We're going to go get some coffee. Greg, just talk and wave when you're almost done, and we'll come back to the desk and then we'll take over. That's not his fault. But these kinds of things, these kinds of statements, these are like the dumbasses who believe if you put your name on a building, you live forever. Like, it's that type of ego. It's insanity. Dude, you're doing your job. You're relevant. You're the most relevant there is in the sport and conference commissioners because people actually know your name. Think somebody in Tuscaloosa knows who Jim Phillips is? They think that's their plumber. Like, no.
I do too. Yeah, no. I don't ever see Jim accomplish anything. So yes,
but it's not enough. These dudes are nuts. They're deranged, and so he got pissed off one day that somewhere on maybe his cousin's daughter said they're talking bad about you on Facebook, and he's outraged. And he calls and he says, "We need a puff piece on ESPN." That's how these things happen.
Well, it's an odd story, and I laughed when I heard it, and when I read it, I thought, really, honestly, you're worried about some nasty emails? Nobody in their right mind condones anybody making bodily threats to committee members or threatening to kill anybody over a college football playoff selection. No normal human being thinks about that, but you're living in a comment section if you're going to cater to that, and that's stupid. That's on you. So when you go on and talk about, are people going to want to serve in this capacity given the level of vitriol that has been directed at spare me with that low-hanging fruit nonsense. Nobody condones the lunatic fringe of any collection in any way. Nobody does. They're volunteers. They have fulfilled their charge, I tell you. Please, Greg, that's just completely disingenuous. But it's also not surprising, and it made me laugh. As soon as I read it, I thought, and make sure we have somebody writing that story today. All bow down to the overlord that is Greg Sankey, the SEC, and ESPN's newfound relationship with them. It's Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
News now.
Tallahassee police announced Sunday morning they are investigating a suspicious death of a woman on Jackson Bluff Road. Police are looking into the case at the 4000 block of Jackson Bluff Road after receiving a call around 7:15 a.m. on Sunday about a woman not breathing. The woman was pronounced deceased. All parties involved have been identified, and this is an isolated incident. This is an active and open investigation, and anyone with information regarding the incident should call 850-891-4200 or to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers at 850-574-TIPS. Leadership with the Railroad Square Art District say the apartment development that has been discussed in 2023 is no longer moving forward. Meanwhile, leaders remind everyone the monthly First Friday events continue rain or shine despite road construction in the area. This is a great way to engage with the community and support the creative local micro businesses in the Art District. This is Rachel and A with your Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A wind advisory begins at 9 p.m. tonight and continues until 5 p.m. tomorrow night. Cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for showers. Daytime highs approaching 59. East winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows dip down to about 56. Cloudy skies expected. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently, it's 50 degrees.
Zaxby's Sensation Salad is so much more than a plain old salad. It's a salad, which begs the question, at what point does a salad stop being a salad and become a salad? Is it when you add Zaxby's fried chicken to it? Crunchy wontons? Asian slaw? Citrus vinaigrette? Teriyaki glaze? Sweet and spicy sauce? Or is it when you top it all with a handmade perfectly fried egg roll? Without a doubt, the egg roll. The Sensation Salad, only at Zaxby's.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff?
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All of these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of, that nobody would know, and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network.
For the third straight year, and they'll host they'll play in the playoff game, and we can all kind of, I guess, whatever. There you go. I'll take the division title for 3 straight years in a rebuilding. That's fine. But the real story in the state has to be that of the Jags. I would also note that you can't go into a game against Henry, who's destroyed Jacksonville and many others over the course of his career, and allow him to be the reason you get beat. But 153 yards later, that's exactly what happened on 19 carries, and it's his best output of the season, by the way, by over 30 yards. And then I wonder, to Jacksonville fans, serious question, I'm not chiding, do you want to pay Trevor Lawrence $240 million? Because I think this is the question you're asking yourself today. Is Trevor the guy? It didn't help that he changed the play, called his own number on the goal line. And the problem with that is that you didn't convey this to your offensive line because your right guard is pulling as you're trying to leap over the line right where you would have needed him. So this is a problem on a lot of levels. And the Jaguars have, in their franchise history, as we well know, one double-digit win season in the last 16 years, and it was orchestrated by Blake Bortles. It's a toughie. 8-3 with a chance at the 1 seed to out of the playoffs. Whew. It'll hurt your feelings. Tua looked terrible last night. That'll happen when they face good teams. The Dolphins choke away the division. If you're a Dolphins fan, you're thanking Tua for the 1 first down they got in the second half. And that was on the final drive, one in which he threw an interception. Bills had almost 500 yards of offense. Could have been a lot more one-sided. It wasn't. Miami on the season 1-5 versus playoff teams, outscored by 91 points. Now, the reward is to go on the road. It's going to be 2 degrees in Kansas City. Quite literally, it's projected to be about 2 degrees in Kansas City. That's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ledger, where you watch and you look at the playoffs and you say, well, what surprises you? The Texans had a rookie head coach this year and a rookie quarterback, and they made the playoffs. That's on the table, Tommy Lang. That's doing some things.
It's very impressive, and yet, you have a classic case of I call the perfect play. Who's to blame for the Colts? You spend a timeout when you don't really have to spend a timeout. You take Jonathan Taylor off the field, who had been your offense, and you were even missing him. Moss finished off the 1 drive, but he was at 196 yards from scrimmage before that play, that 4th down play. It is wide open. It's not a perfect throw, but it's a good enough throw, but it's to your 3rd string running back. I couldn't help but feel a little bit of Reggie Bush, Lendale White energy in that moment. That was a fun game to watch, and that's going to be a really interesting. I think, is that the first game out the gate? Is Cleveland and Houston?
It's a really good football game, by the way.
So Flacco's throwing for 3 bills left and right, including a game against the Texans, which he threw for nearly 400 and 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. The Texans' pass defense isn't great, but can Stroud fight against the front 7, specifically the front 4 of Cleveland? And can he go to another level? Because I feel like if he scores 24 plus, if he leads 24 plus points of offense against that defensive front as a rookie, man, he'll go to an even higher level. And he's already like the guy from this class.
Yeah, Cleveland at Houston, 4:30 Saturday, NBC. Should be a fun game. Give me Cleveland early in the week. Miami at Kansas City, again, 8 o'clock. And also the other part of this that's wonderful is you're going to put the defending champions on Peacock? Cold-blooded. What are we doing? I mean, how many old people are like, where is this Miami-Kansas City game? I want to watch the playoffs. Think about the state of Florida. Think about South Florida. How many people are trying to tune into Peacock unsuccessfully? 74% of the people that live in South Florida. What is Peacock? Never mind the rest of the country. I mean, there's going to be, I flip through everything. You try it. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, this is crazy. They're putting that game on in prime time on Peacock. It is going to be so fun to watch the panic on, like, well, I guess I would say Facebook or like some sort of AOL thing, right? All the old people trying to reach out to one another. I don't. Ken, have you found Peacock? Where is this Peacock? They told me channel 7. It's not here. I went to 7's alternate, which is 106. It's not here. I don't see. There's nothing called Peacock here.
They're looking for a channel called Peacock.
Yeah.
Where is
this Peacock?
There was this bar, not my normal one that I went to yesterday, where they had the ticket, but they have it on a phone, which I think you're supposed to get it for a business differently. Anyway, their ID got signed out. And so they're trying to pull up the Seattle-Arizona game. Mm-hmm. And they got signed out of the device. And so it's that screen. It's like either go to this website or click here or do whatever. And the woman goes, the hell was this? And she walked away. And I said, just so heads up, next week you're going to need Peacock Just letting you know. You're going to need an app for that 8 o'clock game because they're spoiled up here. When there's Thursday night games on Amazon Prime, the local picks channel takes it. And so people don't have to worry. They can just flip to a broadcast channel. I'm sure they pay a ridiculous amount of money.
Right.
Well, that ain't this weekend. Not for Kansas City, Miami. I said, you better get you an app because people are going to be pissed next week.
I also laugh that the other side of this is that I was like all the other suckers when the big cut the cord movement occurred. I waited and waited because I don't like buffering. I don't want any buffering. If fiber optic is what I do, it better be badass. And there's no buffering, none of that nonsense. So I waited and waited and waited. And the big thing that everybody told you was, oh, well, you know what? This is where it's going. This is where it's going. And you save money, Tom. You save all kinds of – no, you don't. You don't save a damn thing. You're not saving any money at all. In fact, I'm spending more now because I'm the guy that's like, well, I guess I got to have Peacock. And then I got to have this other thing. And then this other thing. So I got all the things, but I'm getting bent over. This is crazy. I should have just stayed with cable. I've got Netflix. I've got HBO Max. I got Peacock. I got Amazon. I got all the things. You name them. My kids are like, oh, we don't have this. We don't have this. We don't have that. I guess I'm getting it. What's that, $15 a month? I guess it is. So we got it at the Cameron household at about $350 a month.
Yeah, I've come full circle. When I got up here, I started clean, and I have Verizon. And I have the bundle. I've got every channel there is. I've got fiber at 1G. Got it all bundled together. And it cost me a little over $200 a month, which is way cheaper. There was a time when you could do the cord cable, the cord cutting with YouTube TV and a good internet service. It'd be like $125 a month. Yeah, we are no longer there.
It's gone. It's gone. And it's gone. There's no – you're just spinning out the ass for all of these spin-off stations. You're like, well, I missed the documentaries on Showtime. I bet I'm going to have to get Showtime now. I'm going to have to get this and that. They're all a la carte. I know you can get bundles, and I did do that with Disney and Apple and all the other things. Like just add to the litany of things that I have. Sometimes I forget I have them, and then the bill comes, and I'm like, what is Curiosity Stream? I'm spending $28 a month on Curiosity Stream. What is this?
Well, what they're doing is I don't know what that is. I don't know if I want to know what that is. That sounds interesting.
No.
But NFL Plus, they've already rolled that out. It's the staging. It's what ESPN Plus is doing. They're going to go direct to consumer for all their channels in the next year or two. NFL Plus is already rolled out. Instead of, remember, if you were a Verizon customer, you could get all the primetime games on the NFL app, but only if you were a wireless customer for them. So now they've got this, and according to the sports business insiders like Marchand up in the Post, they desperately want streaming to work. That's why they went to YouTube TV.
Yeah, of course.
Why they're with Prime. That's why they're doing it. So it's going to be that NFL Plus that's all you get. They're probably going to pull it off of broadcast networks in the next 5 to 10 years. It's just a total mess.
By the way, Nick, I know what Curiosity Stream is. I do have it, and I did do the investigation to figure out why I got it. That's how old I am. I get these things when they first come out. I'm a huge documentary guy, and Curiosity Stream has a gazillion documentaries in one place. They're awesome. Because a lot of those things miss the theaters, or you don't ever get them on cable or whatever. So I pulled the trigger one day and got it, and then forgot I had it. And I went like 2 years without ever watching a single one of these Curiosity documentaries. It's automatic pay. So they got me. And then one day I just happened to decide to itemize and look through everything because I was like, why am I spending $300 on entertainment? What's going on? And then I was like, what is Curiosity Stream? Oh, something I bought ages ago. So yes, I'm the honorary, as you would say there in old South Floridian, that would have been, had it not been for my grand exploration into the world of a la carte purchases, the guy looking for effing Peacock.
And this is the biggest problem that they have to solve. This is where NFL's interest in one area, it really gets in the way of and intersects with their other interest. The hardest part of a streaming service is you can't live bet with them. They're 30 seconds behind.
They're 30 seconds behind, and I had a great weekend gambling. Not in golf. Did okay in golf, but not great. I whooped ass with the NFL and live betting. But I really had to look at big trends. As in, okay, neither one of these two teams can block the other. Nobody's going to score. I don't need to know that in the next 30 seconds. I know it now. I'm going to bet the under 46 right here. Or the weather's bad, and I'm going to hammer the under here. But any of the real-time stuff that you're talking about, you're screwed. You can't do it. You absolutely can't do it. It's frustrating as all hell. You need something now.
That's one of the benefits of me getting the cable. I'm like, oh man, my live betting game has just come back to life. That's the way they should pitch it. As there's this reunification, what's going to happen is it's like college football. They're going to break apart to come together as one professional league, and it'll be regionalized after it's all done. The cable companies eventually are just going to tell you $80 a month, you get all the streaming services instead of channels. That's what it's going to be. But right now you got to pay $350 because you forgot to unsubscribe to Sling and YouTube TV and Paramount Plus.
Stream and Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus. That's another one. Why do I have Paramount Plus? This is ridiculous. I think I got Paramount Plus drunk one night because one of my kids wanted to see some show. I was like, all right, I'll get it. $7.99. Sounds good. The month $7.99 deal went to $52.50 after that, and I forgot. Next thing you know, I've got Paramount Plus. I've never watched a thing on Paramount Plus in my life. Is that where stupid Yellowstone is?
That's correct. It's where Star Trek is, though.
Like I said, never watched a thing on Paramount Plus in my life. Hour number 2, forthcoming. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
If you've been waiting and waiting for the perfect time to buy your new house, you'll be waiting forever. This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, and I have been a mortgage lender for over 20 years. And I can tell you that there is no such thing as perfect timing. So take the first step towards your new home and let me show you what that really looks like. Chances are very high that you'll be very surprised at what I can help you do. When rates go low, prices go high, and that home that you've been eyeballing could be gone. If you're wondering how the drop in interest rates is going to affect your payment, give me a call. I'll be more than happy to show you all of the options available to get you into your new home. And for every single loan that we close for a fellow Knoll, I will personally donate $250 per closing to the Battle's End. Let's do this together, and let's keep climbing. Call me today at 954-369-6171. That's 954-369-6171. Or you can find me online at loansforknolls.com. That's loansforknolls.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 373031.
The weather is unpredictable and can cause issues around your home. Weston Trawick provides commercial, residential, and industrial electrical wiring services, yearly inspections on fire alarms, portable generator sales, and so much more. With 24/7 emergency service and repair, Weston Trawick will be your calm in the storm. Give them a call at 514-0003. Weston Trawick, professional electrical services day or night. Visit online at westontrawick.com.
I'm Franklin, and I've been a Paul's Termite technician for well over 10 years. Working for a great company like Paul's Termite and Pest Control is a blessing for my family and myself. I get tremendous satisfaction knowing that the work I do helps protect most people's biggest investment, their homes, the place where they raise their families and build lifelong relationships. Paul's is a company that stands behind their commitments to customers and employees, and that makes me proud to represent them.
I'm Jay. Having the privilege to work with people like Franklin and all of our employees is truly an honor. There is no doubt that the staff of Paul's Termite and Pest Control is the best in our industry. All of our people are local, and local really does mean something. We're North Floridians. Our kids go to school here. We shop here. We build relationships here, and we honor our commitments. To all of our customers, thanks for trusting us to protect your family, pets, and home.
For the elimination of termites, any other pests, and a greener lawn too, call Paul's. We'll get them all.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3 WVFT, Gretna, Tallahassee. The latest betting odds and live movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Jacksonville Jaguars close out the season with 4 losses in 5 games, 9-8, and eliminated from the playoffs after a 28-20 loss at Tennessee as a 3.5-point road favorite. College football championship game coming up today, NRG Stadium in Houston. It's Michigan, a 4.5-point favorite over Washington, 56.5 the total. Florida State tomorrow hosting Wake Forest at the Tucker Center. The Seminoles are 75-1 with the ACC title. Wake Forest 10-1. Florida Gators on Wednesday at Ole Miss. They're 15-1 to win the Southeastern Conference crown. Get your free VSiN subscription right now at VSIN.com. For more sports betting news and information, go to VSIN.com. Mike Sennett, Real Talk 93.3.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
At Epps Decorating Center, we're your locally owned Benjamin Moore retailer. We're your store for quality with brilliant and durable paints in a variety of sheens and thousands of colors. We're your store for service with one-on-one advice for contractors and homeowners. We're your local experts, and we're here to help with all your painting projects. Benjamin Moore, available at Epps Decorating Center with 2 locations in Tallahassee. Find a store near you and visit EppsDecorating.com. That's EppsDecorating.com.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4,
That is that Alabama, former Alabama wide receiver Malik Benson has joined the fold. We're talking about the same Malik Benson who was the JUCO number one prospect in the country before going to Bama. He now joins Florida State. They've had success here now with him and Jalen Brown, who came over from LSU at the wide receiver position. Florida State's going to have a lot of speed and a lot of talent, and that is a loaded group. Now, you're like me. You're the guy saying, okay, well, that's cool, but what are we going to do along the offensive and defensive lines, or in particular at linebacker? Big question marks surrounding the linebacker situation right now. Maybe a little less so on the defensive line. Remember, you already did bring in Marvin Jones Jr. You got a good shot at bringing this defensive end in from West Virginia. It's a good buzz around him. You did sign Grady Kelly from Colorado State on the defensive line. That's not a huge signing. That's not an elite signing, but it is a signing that I think is comparable to what you lost there with Malcolm Ray. So you're able to replace that. We know, obviously, Florida State, if we're looking at the totality of the portal so far, they did bring in one of the best two quarterback options that they could bring in as a bridge. We explored the conversation last week, Tom, a little bit. I thought at the time that they brought in DJ that, I might have been content with going a different route. I might have thought that Brock could be the starter there in a season that's going to see you go somewhere between 8-4 or 10-2, type season, and let him take his lumps. But you would have had to sign a quarterback somewhere along the way, though. I mean, I know Kromenhoek is coming in, but your depth chart is seriously compromised with Tate Rodemaker going to Southern Miss. So there's that, At the end of the day, they didn't go that route. That's fine. I'll trust them on that. It's a perfectly good bridge, maybe even a plus bridge to go with DJ. And if he plays well, you'll be happy you did it. You are big. You're going big on the offensive line. Big. It looks like you're trying to bring in another couple of offensive linemen. Let's hope they can sign Ferguson. Don't know if that's going to happen or not. Maybe they sign the Leonard kid out of UF. He's a big guard as well. You've already got a lot of size there. They've re-signed some guys there. Maybe you plan on running DJ quite a bit. I would. He's a big dude. I'd run all kinds of if you're going to run some size at people, let's run downhill.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they said that, I forget which visit interview it was, but the kid told the media that it was communicated to him that both guard jobs were open. Both starting guard jobs were open. Now, you could approach that one of two ways. You could say that all jobs are up for grabs, always. That's one way a coaching staff would couch something. But he didn't say that. He said both starting guard jobs are open. When you consider all that Florida State is bringing back and retaining from last year, including guys like Darius Washington, which to me, that means that they like him at tackle. But Byers and Keandre Jones and some of the younger kids that they have here, to say nothing of Maurice Smith, who's going to be, again, you pencil him in as a starting center unless something else happens. But they're bringing back a lot of guys. Maybe Robert Scott is converted to interior. Who knows? But to say that both guard jobs are still open, I find that fascinating. So that tells me, much like what they're doing with the wide receiver room, that they're saying it's not good enough, that what we saw last year isn't good enough, that what we have on campus right now is not good enough. And it seems like beef is the way that they want to approach this thing. They want to bully ball. I'm all for that. I'd say let's go bully ball, because DJ is a guy that has a high floor, but I don't know how high that the ceiling is consistently. He doesn't turn the ball over very much, but there are spells where he will miss wide open dudes, and I think they're not trying to rely on that. They're trying to use the cannon for the arm and the size of the body of the quarterback, and then they're just trying to maul you up front. I applaud them for it. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually do that come the season in August.
Well, you have a lot of speed now. I mean, with you bring in what you've brought in, the kid from Indiana I know he's a special teams guy. We'll see how they use him. You've got Jalen Brown, you got Jalen Lucas. So you're bringing in some guys that, and now Benson, you got to be excited about all that. That's fine. I would like to see us win more of these battles for defensive and offensive linemen. Obviously linebacker. I've talked about this at length. It's getting old. People are tired of hearing me say it, but all you got to do is look at our depth chart and see that this is a problematic area. But you've brought in, a running back / kick returner, punt returner. You've brought in a wide receiver. You brought in another wide receiver. You brought in a quarterback. You brought in a very good defensive back. Now, I will say, Bringing Marvin Jones Jr. in is potentially a very big deal. So he is a defensive lineman. You got a defensive end there. If you bring in the kid from West Virginia, okay, you brought in 2 defensive ends at that point. Good. Gonna need another offensive and defensive lineman. At some point, I think you need 2 linebackers. And I just don't know. That's the other thing is some of the guys that are available in the portal, you might just not be willing to spend on. You might say, well, that's not appreciably better than what we got. We'll wait and we'll see what happens from here. It's not the only time that you can go out and get somebody. We know you can in the spring.
There are 2 main entry times, but then if somebody graduates as well, the rules don't apply to them. They can kind of just jump in whenever they want as a graduate transfer. So you do have all those opportunities. And this is, again, where I would rather spend some of the resources on multi-year guys. Like, I get it. Malik Benson has 1 year of eligibility remaining, and that's fine. He seems to fit what we're doing with DJU quite nicely. But most of these guys that are being brought in, at least so far, look like multi-year solutions to the problem. And I saw it last night in the summary he did on the boards. Michael Langston compared Lolohea, the defensive end from Oregon State, to a Keir Thomas type player, which I like, because when you're thinking about what Patrick Payton is, what Marvin Jones Jr. could be, you need to have somebody else who plays a bit of a different role on the edge. You got to have your Keir Thomas to your Jermaine Johnson. And I like that that's how they're constructing this thing. If you are able to retain, and these guys aren't in the portal right now, but Farmer and Jackson, and let's say that you get those 2 things done, and that's the basis of your interior, you've got good pass rush types in Peyton and Jones Jr. to go along with a couple of maybe edge setting type, run stuffing type defensive ends. Okay, your front 4 is in a good place to be physical, just like your offensive line is in a good place to be physical if you add a couple of players. Linebacker is the sore thumb. And it's going to be really, really sore until you bring in multiple options. And they don't even have to all work, but you got to bring in some options.
Yeah, and I'm not in love with the Hill Green kid, and the Stephon Thompson kid. You're going to have to bring in some options. You're right. Let's just put it that way. You're going to have to bring in some options. I hope that there are some lessons being learned here. I don't believe that as you go through this process, everything has to be a referendum. That's what ends up happening while you're in the midst of changing what you are and what the expectations are. You see this all the time. And you don't get a kid, it is frustrating. It's fair to point out that you're lacking in an area. I have pointed out repeatedly that they're lacking at linebacker, both in skill, recruiting. I think the coach has done a poor job of that position group. It doesn't always have to be that extreme. Some things are just not necessarily referendums on what the career is going to be for somebody or the prospects of success for 4 and 5 years down the road. They could just be in the moment disappointments and lessons to be learned. And we're always monitoring this very closely, and Mike has to be as well. I know that there was a negative reaction to the extension of the coaches, which as we were entering the weekend, right, that was the news that came out, was that the entire coaching staff got extensions and raises, and there was a lot of pushback about that. There was a whole bunch of pushback on that. A lot of people thought, don't know that I would have done that. And then everybody had their guy that they didn't want to see extended. I think everybody knows who I would have chose not to extend. But the point would be, it doesn't mean that they're doomed to fail 2, 3, 4 years from now. It does mean that maybe they made a decision that they're going to regret. And you can first guess that. That's part of the fun of sport. We do that all the time. We say somebody is a good or not good player, and then we wait and see 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road whether or not that's true. We know oftentimes you need that much time to do the evaluation. It'd be hard to tell me that you don't think Mike Norvell's a good coach. You could say, I think Mike is going to learn the hard way that he needs to surround himself with stone cold killer recruiters, and he's not doing that right now, and thus the program will top out at a certain level. You can say that. That can be an opinion you have, and we can have that conversation. We can have that discussion. I may or may not agree with you on that. I might agree with you on aspects of that, but not in totality. But you'd be hard pressed to argue whether or not Mike's a good coach. They just went 13-0. He turned this thing around in a heartbeat. It's a minor miracle we're having the conversations we're having right now with Florida State being where they're at. So there's no denying that he's a very good coach, but he may learn a valuable lesson about not holding on to certain guys who are not carrying their weight in recruiting. We'll see.
it becomes interesting. And I know that his answer before, as it pertains to the portal versus the high school ranks, are that it's year to year. And I think that's true. I mean, the market's different every year. We talked about this as well last week, that it's almost like a draft class. Like, if you're a point guard in basketball and it's a thin year for point guards, you may not be ready, but you're going to get drafted higher. So you know what? Declare. Go. Or it could be another year where you're very, very good. You got 1 year of eligibility, but there are 9 point guards that are about the same and you're one of them. How about you stick around for another year at college, refine your game, do something else, and then go next year, you're going to make a little bit more money. So it's hard to pin down and say that you should always have this percentage of high school players and that percentage of portal players, and that is the proper balance forevermore. It doesn't work like that. But I'd be interested to hear his approach as it pertains to the front seven, because the front seven of the defense has been the thing that's lacking in the high school ranks. They've been able to patchwork around it, develop some players, retain some players, but it hasn't been the windfall or the change overnight like you've seen with wide receiver. That is the success story if you're going to rebuff that they should have, if somebody says they shouldn't extend everybody. Well, Ron Dugans is a great example of somebody who has flipped their reputation in 2 years' time from somebody who has got to go to somebody that you're happy stuck around. But we have not seen that night and day transition yet from the linebacker position and maybe defensive interior a little bit. And you've been lucky and you've been good at landing some really good players. But that wide receiver flip, the reputation flip that all started with Micah Pittman and Winston Wright and Johnny Wilson, followed by a couple of recruiting classes, hasn't happened at linebacker yet. You've gotten Blake Nicholson, and that's about it.
Yeah, and we don't know. We'll see what Blake becomes. Right now, he's just a guy that's undersized, and you like the potential for him to, at least one aspect of his game is that he can cover. But you don't love him down to down as a complete linebacker just yet, so you don't know. And everybody else, we'll see. Got a little potential there, but not much. You've got to get better there, deeper there, more talented there, and you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it in traditional recruiting, and you're not seeing it in the portal, and that's what's led to the criticism of Randy, and I think it's a fair criticism. And, now ultimately, listen, most kids, I will say this, most kids in some way or another are actually committing to the head coach. That's when you're looking big picture at recruiting. Yes, there are guys with reputations as being elite recruiters as a position coach, right? Linebacker, running back coach, tight end, whatever it might be. But ultimately, this all starts with your head coach. I think you need to have a dynamic head coach who kind of serves as the focal point of what's attractive about your program. The head coach has to be the representation of that. So Mike right now, and this is what I worry about for Mike, has to do a lot. Mike is the primary play caller. Mike is the number one recruiter on the staff. Mike is the guy who puts together the game plan with Alex, right? Mike is really everything for this program. Now, he's young. He's a young coach, and you get that. You get 41, 42, 43, 44-year-olds able to do that, to carry the day in every aspect of what it means, right? So you're the front man for when the kids get here, shaking hands, kissing babies, giving speeches, going on the road, talking to alumni and boosters. You're doing all of those things. You're the guy on game day. You're working the officials. You're calling the plays. You're the guy who comes up with the overall offensive scheme. You're the guy who puts the building blocks and the bedrock of what your program is about. At some point, you need somebody to help out with aspects of what it is you do on a day-to-day basis, right? And I think primarily as you get older, where that happens is it's got to be in recruiting. It's got to be some other guy on your staff needs to be an elite recruiter. Now, you could still be the closer the way Bobby was. But as you get older, man, all that traveling and doing those kinds of things in the world of recruiting is very difficult to sustain.
Well, the other thing is it's exponential, the weight that's been put on these coaches. I mean, again, we feel it runoff-wise as fans consuming all the media in December that we do. This was our break as fans. You'd say, all right, bowl practices, anybody get hurt? No? Good. We'll see you on the 26th in Orlando at 2 p.m. Got it. 2 p.m., 26th. Now December is crazy. And as media members, we feel it even more because there's no real set schedule. It can happen at any point, bleeds over into January for portal visits and all that kind of stuff. But for coaches, especially the head coach, with considerations for NIL, re-recruiting your own roster at all times, because now for this brief period in the history of college football, there are unlimited transfers. I mean, my God, you're talking about wear and tear that's happening. It's like being on a smooth highway versus one with potholes everywhere. That's where we are right now. Potholes everywhere. The car, the engine, the wear and tear. You do need a lot of people that you can count on. That's why, unfortunately, Jimbo talked about this forever. Organization, you got to have more and more people. They do need more and more people constantly to put up with this ridiculous calendar that they have to navigate.
Kendrick Blackshire has entered the NCAA transfer portal. That, according to Pete Nakos, and he is a former 4-star recruit from the 2021 class. He is a linebacker out of Alabama, Tom Lang.
Okay.
Just thought I'd make mention.
You think
he's a linebacker from Alabama that is available?
You think he's worth giving a shot here?
Yeah.
I figured I'd put it simply. I think I'm
going to make a run at it. Yeah.
It would be like having a hot, fresh out of the back of the house Zaxby's chicken finger in front of you with some delectable sauce of your favorite, whatever your favorite is. They got so many of them. And you're saying, you think that would be tasty? You think that would be worth biting into?
I don't know that you are aware of this, because the answer to that is, of course, a resounding yes. But did you know that the Zaxby's Asian sensation salad is back? Did you see what I did there? How about that?
There it is.
Like a true company man. It is a salad at Zaxby's, and it's got the fried chicken and the Asian slaw. You combine those ingredients together, and it's delicious. I have had one. I'm telling you now, it's outstanding. It beats the hell out of a regular salad. Go get you one of these salads from Zaxby's.
That's the style of slaw that defeats all slaw. The standard soupy mayo-based, no good. Asian style slaw is the way to be.
I like both, Tom. You're not going to slander mayo-based products, but that's okay. At least Zaxby's provided an alternative for you, and a delicious one at that, buddy.
I would never slander mayo-based products. I would just tell the truth about it. Slander implies I'm lying.
You are. You're lying. I think more mayonnaise, not less mayonnaise, is a standard we should all aspire to. But I understand not everybody concurs with that, and that's why Zaxby's got the Asian sensation salad.
There it is. You nailed that.
I did. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
I'm Dana Brooks.
And I'm Jimmy Basic of Basic Brooks Law Offices.
Traffic cameras are everywhere these days.
And Basic Brooks is partnered with RoadProof to get access to all their vast network of cameras.
This is a valuable tool to help us search for evidence that could help you if you were involved in an accident.
If you've been hurt in an accident, call Basic Brooks and we'll find out if the proof you need is out there.
Call Basic Brooks and we'll do everything we can to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Chronic pain can be very bossy. What do I mean? It tells you what you can or can't do. Sometimes it even has the audacity to keep you from working.
I missed almost 3 weeks of work, and I was no longer able to play tennis. The pain was really debilitating sometimes. I missed Thanksgivings.
Abby was ready to put the bossy bad back in her past. And that's when she discovered QC Kinetics and their non-surgical treatments for pain. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine with tens of thousands of satisfied patients, people who have experienced real lasting relief without drugs and without surgery.
It has just been the most life-changing, amazing experience. Not only life-changing, but career-saving. I get to continue to do the career that I love. I'm playing tennis again.
Stop letting that joint pain boss you around. Start with a free consultation at QC Kinetics.
Call QC Kinetics, 850-391-4280. That's 850-391-4280. 850-391-4280.
A cup of Joe, Java, brew, go-go beans, brain water, liquid lightning, wakey juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to coffee, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name, because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Hit grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
Give your business a facelift with a modern, consistent, creative brand overhaul from Curiosity Marketing Group. These days, it's not enough for your business just to have a standard website or a Google listing to reach your customers. Your business needs to stand out with eye-popping branding, modern web development, and strong marketing. And it takes a team to pull it all together. Words and websites matter. At Curiosity, we make the most of yours. Find out more at curiositymg.com.
I used to fight almost on a daily basis working on my business website. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I could never get it to function the way I needed it to, and I was losing customers because of it. That's when I called Curiosity Marketing. They listened, they understood, we collaborated, and in the end, they delivered beyond my highest expectations. Now, I can barely keep up with the work. They say the future belongs to the curious, and now I'm excited about the future of my business.
Find out more at curiositymg.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida.
Dave wrote that he was lamenting over old restaurants. He's missed the fist-sized muffins at the Mill Bakery and Eatery. Dave, you know you still get those. You can still get those big old muffins over at my man Kush's. Those, and it's just like that blue cheese that we all remember, Buffalo Wings and Rings or whatever that was back in the day. Tom, this is before you got here, buddy.
Where was the mill again?
Appalachia Parkway. Well, there are two mills. There was one on Monroe.
Okay.
And then there was one on Appalachia Parkway. I used to go out to the one on Appalachia Parkway on Fridays because they had a deck and they would have reggae on Fridays. And if you were feeling it, man, there was nothing better than getting over there on a Friday afternoon and having that reggae hit where you got you a cold one.
That was, what became La Fiesta, right?
Correct. That's exactly right. That's what that was. Yeah.
What a sad day it was that La Fiesta closed. It wasn't even COVID that got it. It was just they decided to retire, the family that owned it. That was quite the restaurant.
Well, and I miss bagel heads too. The giant ass bagels were so delicious. And our guy was awesome over there. Remember that? And then he retired basically right in the prime of his career, kicking ass over there at Bagel Heads. Yeah, I missed that as well.
Yeah. You had your own bagel. That's
I did. There was it the Campster? What was it?
I think it was the Campster. Yeah. It was good artwork too.
It was delicious. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah. I missed that. I miss the Wings and Rings because I would sit on the deck there and hours upon hours. They always had these ridiculous deals. I look back on it now, like $3 pitchers. Really? We were all just slamming $3 pitchers. Life was simple back then, buddy.
Man, hey, inflation didn't catch us too much in the early 2000s. It was $4 pitchers at Poor Paul's on a Sunday night, and they had the free pizza. Now, where was the Big Chicken? Where was that?
The Big Chicken?
Didn't you have a place called the Big Chicken?
Not that I recall, no.
No?
Roosters, we had Roosters, which got burnt to the ground for insurance purposes, allegedly.
Was that the place with the giant thing out front? Like the
I don't remember anything called the Big Chicken, but you might have been thinking about roosters. That was way back in the day. I'll probably get in trouble for that. I believe Ira Chaffel is waiting patiently, so let's get to him right now. Hello, Ira. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm well. Tell me you laughed aloud when you saw Greg Sankey's ridiculous-ass comments.
I mean, my guy.
My guy is right. Are you kidding?
And the problem is, and I was thinking about this as I was reading it and tweeting it, it's like nobody in the national media is ever going to check the guy because ESPN's in bed with him and nobody else is going to challenge him. So it's just like, I mean, it's one thing, it was cool that like Booger McFarland and RG3 and some of those people criticized the playoff committee's decision, but nobody's going to ever come after him except like, little small time nobodies in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, it's ridiculous, man. It's, and I just wish there was an independent national voice, but I don't know if there is one.
Well, it was interesting. I thought, man, if I'm Heather Dinich, I don't want to put my name on that. But then again,
just shoveling his crap.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a tough one. You're like, really? I got to do this? Then again, I've got the easiest job on earth.
Well,
I've got the greatest job that anybody in sports media has ever had. I monitor the college football playoff committee. I say what they need me to say, and then I go home. It's not a bad gig. So she was like, yeah, I'll shovel whatever Greg needs me to shovel.
I think and I guess last week he said that, he wasn't politicking on game day. And it's like, what are you talking about? You went on game day. You had your whole Sesame Street thing written. Somebody wrote that for him. He went on there for 10, 15 minutes. It's just the whole thing. I'd almost appreciate it more if Greg Sankey would just say, you know what? Our conference is better. Screw all of you.
Well, Ira, that's what I said. I don't begrudge Greg Sankey for going on ESPN. They allowed him to do it, to go on ESPN and stump for his conference. That's his job. He's the SEC commissioner. It would have been nice to see the ACC commissioner, Jim Phillips, anywhere during this whole charade. But instead, we couldn't find him. He was persona non grata. Nobody knew where the hell the commissioner was while FSU was getting boned. And so here we sat. Meanwhile, the SEC commissioner, at the mere threat that quite possibly they won't get a team in, did a 2-hour speech on game day. I mean, in fact, that makes him really good at his job. But this jumps the shark to pretend that they had a written retort to the committee excluding the SEC teams by saying merely that they were disappointed and they disagreed, but that, hey, this is what they were tasked to do. We'll move along.
And he's like, oh, we've had numerous teams finish at number 5. Yeah, but you also had 2 other teams in the top 4.
That's what I said earlier. My favorite line is, these are volunteers.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, it's like it's a bake sale. Like we just, hey, don't yell at the lady taking tickets to the bake sale.
Yeah.
It's volunteering.
This is the worst banana bread I've ever had, Susan. Now get your ladies to get it together.
I didn't make it. I'm just volunteering. That was Joni that made that. I don't know.
Don't come to me next year about buying a Boston butt, because this is pure ass that we've got out here every year that I'm paying $40 for. I didn't make the Boston butt.
We pay a guy. I don't know. It's just they're all volunteers, and it's just it's just infuriating. And again, it's just, you either think we're all complete idiots,
yes,
which he probably does, or you just think nobody could, it's just nobody's going to say anything. It's just, I just wish somebody with a big microphone would, with a bigger platform than you and me would challenge some of this nonsense.
The morning I'm reading we'll move on, but the quote is, the morning of selection, we had prepared a statement that said we have a different point of view, but we're not going to point fingers and cast blame at this time.
We would never do that.
No. We're going to focus on how do we improve and prepare for the 12-team playoff. I love, that's so rich. I love the idea of the folks, the measured, well-reasoned, mild-mannered fans in the SEC accepting this sort of thing and going, how do we get better, guys? How do we get better, everybody? I'm not mad. It seems a little off to me, but you know what? This is what they were tasked with doing. How do we get better so that we cannot be denied again in the 12-team play? I'm sure that's what they would have done.
Yeah, we had one team here who had won, 30 straight games, 2 straight national titles, just left them out. And then we had 2 other teams, the one where you just left them out. But that's, guys, we understand. It's a tough job.
What's with the vitriol? What's with the vitriol, guys? There's always going to be disagreement, but it should never sink to this level where the committee, volunteers, I mind you, are being criticized to this extent. That's what led Sankey to do that, by the way. I mean, he already won. He got his team in. What was it?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you look at how many times has Herb Street tried to come back and make his apologies, and Reese Davis and all these. I think they realize that everybody knows what just happened, and they're trying to fix it. They're trying to make it look better than it was.
You can't fix it. You can't fix it.
No.
It's unfixable. You can't do it again. And they knew it. You're right. I think they did know it. Hey, did the basketball team figure something out here? I've been critical, obviously, but they did get a win over the weekend again, and that's back-to-back now to start the ACC here. You think they've got something figured out?
Well, I mean, definitely getting, Primo Spears helps. He's another guy. He didn't have a great game the other day. He did, but he is athletic and he can defend, and it gives you another body that you can throw at teams and kind of get back to what they like to do, which is use their depth and their bench. And then also Jalen Gainey's becoming. Now I'm just mad that we didn't get to see Jalen Gainey healthy.
Needed him. Yeah.
Even where he is now, it's impressive, man. He will battle on the boards. He's a force inside, and so if he continues to get better and gets in better shape, those are 2 huge pieces. And now, again, I think you're seeing Baba Miller and Chandler Jackson, some of these other guys who were kind of like lost because they didn't have enough people around them, now are starting to play better as well. So, I mean, I think they're a decent team now, and I think, I think where they are right now is they can beat other kind of average,
yeah.
At home. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're gonna be able to beat them on the road. They're about to go on the road here in a few days, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, man, it's to me, this is a much. I mean, you can't even compare it to these last 2 seasons. This is actually a decent college basketball.
I got a question for you. You find it interesting that Florida State is taking an approach? I'm talking about football now. Final thing here. I think it's interesting, and it's a fun discussion. Clearly, Mike feels like they're not fast enough, and they're going out and getting burners. And I know you just saw it earlier today with Benson, but you saw it with Jaylen Brown, and you saw it with Jalen Lucas. Now, look, we can have the debates about whether or not they're going to get some more interior linemen or linebackers, whatever. That's a different talking point. But clearly, they wanted to go out. If I'm looking big picture here, they wanted to go out and find a lot more speed.
Yeah, I think they do. I think there's probably 2 reasons for it. And I haven't spoken to Mike Norvell, but this is just, my theories is, number one, you've got a big, strong arm quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei, who I think can stretch the field with his arm. And then number 2, that was a weakness of this team last year. Especially once Keon Coleman was a little bit banged up.
Yep.
Johnny Wilson's never been a burner. You just didn't, and then Justin Hill got hurt, Hakeem Williams got hurt. You just didn't have a lot of guys that could stretch the field, and I think that made life harder. People pointed the offense wasn't real explosive, in the second, probably the last third of the season. Well, part of that was a lot of the Jaheim Bell, all those guys were banged up, and they weren't elite speed guys in the first place. So I think it just became very easy to take away the back shoulder throws, a lot of the underneath stuff, and it made life difficult. So I think you're probably seeing a response to that as well. But we'll see. Benson's a real intriguing one because he obviously didn't do a ton at Alabama, but that was not a great passing attack.
Nope.
And his numbers in junior college are pretty incredible. So you like to think you're going to get something closer to that than what he did at Alabama.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I just thought that it's pretty clear to see the emphasis here that they wanted to get speed, and some more speed. Always appreciate it, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Yep, take care. That's Ira Schafel, warchant.com, of course. Go read all the good stuff from Ira on warchant.com. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
News now.
Tallahassee police are investigating a suspicious death after a juvenile male was found dead late Sunday morning at the Casabella Inn. Around 11:30 a.m., Tallahassee police say officers responded to the inn located at 2850 Appalachia Parkway and found juvenile male deceased. This is an active and open investigation per TBD, and anyone with information regarding the incident should call 850-891-4200 or to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers at 850-574-TIPS. Tallahassee police are also investigating a shooting that took place at a home near Florida A&M Adams campus Friday morning, leaving one man deceased and 2 other men injured. Officers found 2 men with gunshot wounds when they arrived at the scene on the 600 block of Famsey Avenue at about 9:45 Friday morning. Both men were taken to a local hospital for treatment. One of the men died shortly after. The second man remains in the hospital with serious injuries. All involved parties have been identified. No arrests have been made at this time. This is Rachel Anay with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A wind advisory begins at 9 p.m. tonight and continues until 5 p.m. tomorrow night. Cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for showers. Daytime highs approaching 59. East winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows dip down to about 56. Cloudy skies expected. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 52.
I'm Greg Tisch, and I want to share how it all began at Tallahassee Community College. During a quiet moment on a fishing trip in 1963, FSU President Gordon Blackwell looked to Lewis Hill, who was a member of the Leon County Board of Public Instruction, and said, "Lou, why don't you get a junior college?" When Lou told Gordon he felt the college would compete with FSU, Gordon responded, "Nah, you ought to have one." We don't know if they caught any fish that day, but they did catch a big idea.
TCC thanks our community for 58 years of support. We look forward to moving into the future together.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpa's, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu. Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of that nobody would know and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest.
Kid from Alabama at linebacker. We'll see. Sure, that's going to be a, I don't know, outrageous asking price, don't you think?
I would imagine so. I caught the tail end of what you were saying as the sound was restored.
Oh, I said Big Chicken's in Atlanta, by the way. And then I was telling you that the Alabama linebacker is probably going to be an outrageous cost. But, I'm not prohibitive, but I'm just curious.
Well, at some point, like if you've got representation that knows what they're doing and you see that Florida State has a need, you run up the price because they are a potential customer who needs solutions desperately. So I would ask for a little bit more from Florida State than, maybe some other Power 5 schools that have options and they're too deep.
Are you going to watch the Invitational?
Maybe. I watched grand total of the semifinals about a quarter between the two games. So maybe I'm rooting for Washington without seeing it. Like that's just fixed. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Washington too. They're easy to root for.
If I do, it'll probably be the all 22 or the Skycast on the Megacast. It certainly won't be to hear the broadcast. That's for sure.
I've said this before, I've always really, really liked that Washington program. I've rooted for that Washington program over the years. I remember Don James and golly, go back to my friend, Rick Neuheisel and others when he got in trouble. But they've had a rough go and a long stretch of time. But I've always liked that fan base. I love that stadium. I love those uniforms. They're regal. And Penix has been awesome when he's healthy. and I'd like to see it happen. Nobody's rooting for the cheaters at Michigan.
No, that's the other thing here is, you don't want to get spun back into that old argument that we've documented and we're correct about. A lot of the country's wrong. We're correct. But beyond the resume for a Michigan and a Washington that you could poke a lot of holes into as undefeated teams, as many as us, maybe more holes you could poke into their resume as undefeated teams. Nobody cares that Michigan cheated. Nobody cares. That is baffling to me that nobody cares that Jim Harbaugh cheated, accepted 2 different suspensions this year. But Jordan Travis leg, okay. That's fascinating to me that it's completely ignored.
Yeah, and I think it's a fine line because I think that most teams probably do more than what their fan bases would be comfortable if they were to find out and knowing, as far as advanced scouting and all that sort of stuff. But then there's the age-old, you can tell by the reaction of certain coaches around the country that it was a classic case of going 120 in a 70, not 90.
The thieves are telling you that this one has no honor. That's the whole thing here.
Right.
The last we heard of it, I feel like, from ESPN was Desmond Howard weirdly calling out Pete Thamel and kind of challenging him to some sort of combat.
Yeah, it was strange, yes. Yeah.
But they haven't talked about it since then at all. Instead, it's been about a lot of other things, including what Florida State wasn't, which, again, I'm not going to get lost down that rabbit hole. We all know that they are capable of beating these 2 teams in the Invitational tonight. But we'll see.
Will be something I do watch tonight, just because we're out of college football anymore. So that will be that. I'm really hoping that the next football related item that we're talking about on this show anyhow on Wednesday is that they get the kid from West Virginia at defensive end and that they get, let's see if they can make a run at this linebacker out of Alabama. That would go a long way in soothing some of the very real concerns about personnel, talent / shortages at certain segment groups. That would go a long way, I think, if Florida State could do that. Now, it's a big if.
I agree.
Yeah, I think they'll get the kid from West Virginia. And if you are to get this linebacker, then we're going to be feeling a little bit better about our situation heading into the offseason, without question.
Yeah, I was going to say that I agree, generally speaking, that if you could grab those 2 players, it would calm the masses that are not calm right now. I think in general, personally, I'm looking at this as the long game. It's just that if there's any urgency, it's because spring ball has openings in a way that they did not have openings last year. So many of those positions last season in spring and fall, when you're talking about the top line of the 2 deep, were assured. You kind of knew who was going to be the player there, even for the transfers that came in. Like Fentrell's not coming in to sit. Keon Coleman, who was a summer ad, was not coming in to sit. But a lot of these guys that arrived on campus, you kind of knew the picture. It's open. There's a lot of battles that are open. Like Marvin Jones Jr. is coming here to compete and make a mark and try to start. And I don't know that he's going to. But, it's not like Jared Verse is on one side of the football, and then you've got 4 or 5 defensive tackles that that are locked in. Across the board, there are openings. The receiver position now is going to be fascinating because of what this coaching staff has done. I just saw the Battle's End announced in the last few minutes that Kentron has re-upped for another year.
Yeah, and Williamson has re-upped for another year. You saw that, right? And that is fascinating. It's a very deep position, and then you brought in all this speed, and I think they did need to get faster. I brought that up with Ira, and now you've got fierce competition at the position, which is great. You're trying to create fierce competition at every position. This is why it's galling that you don't have it at linebacker. What competition is there? You don't have guys who are of the requisite skill set to play and dominate. So you really only have a couple of options unless you do something about it moving forward.
Yeah, it's just that this spring and into the summer, like every little detail of the tour of duty and the spring and the summer workouts, whatever whispers we can glean each part of the stage, it's open season. And that's what makes it fun. I think that's what's going to make this spring more fun to cover, is that there aren't guys that, all right, now you're looking at the young players for the future for 24, 25. There's a lot of battles. There's a lot of stories that have yet to be written. And the other part of it is some guys are going to see what has come in spring and say, I can't compete here. And they're going to leave, and there are going to be more openings that trickle out. But it's just when you're talking about making a statement to compete for a job, spring has a whole lot more of them open. And there's a lot of young players. We're getting some players like an Earl Little in the secondary. Florida State has a lot of young defensive backs. Like, where does this all fit in? Greedy Vance came back for another year. Is Fentrell coming back for another year? Where does he fit in? Like, there's a whole lot to be sorted out here.
I want, again, you want quality depth. None of those guys who you just named should feel like they're backups. Like none of them should feel like they're backups. They should feel like it's their job and these other guys are coming in to compete with them and that they're going to hold them off. But in reality, we all think that, for example, there's no way they brought in Earl Little Jr. to sit. I mean, he's probably going to play and he's going to play a big role. But I want any of the guys vying for that spot to say, hell no, ain't happening. You want that. But what you always worry about when you bring guys from the outside, although the college football landscape is changing so rapidly anymore, it's probably already reached a place where guys just can't afford to get upset about these things because this is just the norm anywhere you are. It's not just here, it's anywhere now. But the bottom line is, like, you have to take it as an affront and get down and dirty and compete. But you want a depth of talent competing, not, hey, we have 2 guys here, we have 3 guys over here, we got 1 guy here, God forbid he gets hurt. You don't want that. You want to look around and go, I don't know. This is wide the hell open everywhere, Tom. I want it everywhere. Now, at some point, you want some sort of solid foundation. Like, okay, are we good at quarterback? They didn't bring in DJ to sit, but I do hope they let Brock compete. Like, he could win the job, and I don't think you're paying DJ the kind of money where you have to play him.
Yeah, well, DJ has also been the last 2 places that he's gone. They've had rotations, even if it was for a series a game at Oregon State. Michigan State's future quarterback that left with Jonathan Smith rotated in conference games it was the 3rd drive of the game, I think it was, most every single week. And DJ had to rotate in with Klubnik towards the end of Clemson. So he's kind of used to that. The other thing is, if you're bringing in a ton of speed, and they are, it's not like Brock's arm is weak. He showed that in the Orange Bowl that he's got a live arm.
Big arm, yeah. Yeah. I said this before. I think they could have gone one of 2 ways. We know which way they chose. I think our fan base would have been upset by this, but I would not have, other than a depth chart situation, meaning you needed another quarterback to be here. So maybe you would have just waited till the end of the spring and brought in a guy who wasn't going to compete for the job if you went the route that I'm about to describe. If you'd just gone Brock Glenn is my starter. Because next year, I don't feel like you're playing for a championship. You might be playing for a conference championship, but I don't think you're playing to win the national championship yet. Maybe in 2 years that's the case, or 3 years. But I feel like, you do need to maintain and sustain excellence to a certain degree, and that would be competing to win the ACC. But you're going to take some lumps. Any first-year starting quarterback is going to take some lumps. He's going to have that game that leaves you sort of mesmerized. Like, how did that happen? How did my man have this 3 interception game? Well, this is what happens. This is where you're taking your lumps. It happened to Jordan Travis, where you take lumps. You just got to learn on the job. You cannot replicate it in practice. But given how quickly we watched Brock Glenn take a big step forward from the Louisville game to the Georgia game. Now, again, statistically, you could say, what? But just watching the presence in the pocket, the ability to step up, how quickly he got the ball out of his hands. He had nothing to work with in that game. He threw a couple of really nice dimes. They couldn't block Georgia. They didn't have much of a running game. So I felt like there was real progress there. And if they had just decided to turn it over to him, I'd have been all right with it. I would have said, okay, let's see if the young kid can go 9-3, and now you got your guy for the foreseeable future and your red shirt and Chrome and Hawk and whatever. But they chose to go a different route, and I get that too. I'm perfectly fine with that. A veteran quarterback who's played a ton of football, who has real upside, and when he's good, he's really good. He's also a giant kid. So you got him for 1 year, I'd run the hell out of him. At 250 pounds, I mean, I'm not going to leave that off the table. He's going to run in short yardage situations.
Yeah, I agree. And I see in the chat that we've got people talking about the wide receiver room and the defensive back room. Like, truthfully speaking, when you're talking about day-to-day battles and those one-on-ones or the 7-on-7s that they do, the defensive backs versus the receivers, there are so many guys. That's exactly what you're aspiring to, is that this could go any which way. When you're trying to project out who are the starting 3 wide receivers at Florida State next year, if you try to do that right now, it's impossible to answer. Like, probably Hakeem, probably Destin, but where are you going to go from there? And are you sure that some of these other guys might not be able to compete right away? And then you're talking about the defensive back room. If you had to say the 2 most safe players in terms of snaps next year in that defensive back room, Shaheem Brown's one of them.
And Zariah Thomas is probably the other.
Ahead of Cypress, right?
I would say ahead of Cypress, yeah.
Okay.
I think Thomas is about to be a very, very, very good player.
Well, we saw what Conrad Hussey was in spurts. I know Edwin Joseph, before he got dinged up, looked very impressive. They've got a lot of other young players like Quindarius, as smooth as can be, KJ Kirkland, a lot of freshmen that they're bringing in that are early enrollees as well. These battles at that particular part of the field are going to be fierce every day. You've got to build that everywhere, though.
I will say, and I didn't get a chance to mention this earlier, I feel like Florida State is in a much better place than they were heading into the bowl game, heading into the Orange Bowl. I think there was some real uncertainty about what was going to happen with Darrell Jackson and Joshua Farmer. I think there's far less uncertainty. I think they feel good about those guys coming back. So that changes the prospects of what you're going to have on the defensive line next year and the depth that you have there. So that does make me breathe a sigh of relief just a little bit. I mean, I think you can't know with Joshua Farmer, good Lord, but it does feel better. And you've noticed Patrick Payton has flipped the script. He's come back now and been totally on board and all in, and seems like there's a level of maturity that wasn't there before. So that's all good news.
What you're saying is a huge deal if it bears out. But even if they're singing Kumbaya in spring, I'm going to sweat bullets in the summer.
Oh, of course. Well, we'll do that from now until there are changes, period. But we'll see. We'll see. Hey, good looking out, Tom. Talk to you later, brother. Director Matthew, great job as always. Peace out, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow, probably recorded, given what's going on with the weather. Me and the headlines, guys. Peace.